just, what I don't understand is, I keep going back to that parking lot behind St. Joe's. Why lights weren't put in? How could you spend $500,000 to the parking lot over, know you're going to have cars parked there at nighttime, or when the nighttime comes, it's going to be done, and not put public safety? It's almost like it's a total reactionary administration. They only react to something that happens when you should be able to forecast what needs to be done.
Bob, I've had to go to the city council to get my street potholes fixed.
Right.
And I don't know why other citizens don't see that. I got mine fixed. Why don't they come up and say, hey, Mr. Buckley was nice enough to do it, and then that crosswalk. But I don't know if you know, National Grid had cut up our street in the fall. So they cut up our street, and then they promised us it would be paved. It's not been paved. They just do this patchwork Frankenstein job.
We had a thing on the council years ago that I think they had to put a $10,000 deposit, and I don't know if that's annual or for each job, because I want to go back and check that out. But they wouldn't get that money back until it was redone. If you notice, almost in every single patch, especially on a gas patch on the street, it goes down within the first year. And, they should be held accountable to that, to make that level, and even with the street.
They told me they're putting a lot of pipe, this new plastic pipe National Grid's putting in, so I guess they're all over the city digging up. I haven't seen them since they were on my street.
Right.
But, I mean, it's a cause for concern, because I just drive around Medford, and it's not as smooth as, say, Winchester or Woburn.
Of course, you're going to hear the argument, we're not Winchester, we're not Woburn, we're Medford. But that doesn't mean, just because we're not them, we can't have our services provide for us, what our taxes are paying for, it's, I don't know.
I got friends from out of state, and they come up here and they hang out in Davis Square or Central Square. Not Harvard anymore.
Right.
But you're right. People from out of state come out here to hang out
Yep.
and see the entertainment, Johnny D's,
Yep.
or the cinema,
Yep.
and they go to Davis Square.
But you can just walk around Davis Square, because there's more than entertainment and food stores, there's clothing stores, there's a variety. Now they'll probably tell you, because the Red Line goes there, and thanks to former Mayor Gene Brune, who started that and got the thing going. I don't personally think you need the Red Line to get them there, but if that's the case, so be it. But they still created that college town type of atmosphere. There's enough of businesses that are there, and it's just, and they have traffic enforcement.
Yes, they do.
And you know something? This garage that was supposed to be the panacea of saving Medford Square, you can go to Arlington and you go to Somerville, okay? And there's no parking garage there to save the business community. So.
Here in Winchester, Bob, we have Town Day.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to one?
Yeah, I think it's fabulous.
It's incredible. It's fun.
Yeah.
And a couple of years back, WinCam asked me to, one of the board members said, can you do some B-roll? So I'm walking around, and people love it, because I have the camera, and, people with their dogs, and it's just fun. And then you've got the access station interacting with Town Day. And every year I go to what we call Author Fest. So the authors get paid to sit at Town Hall, and then they all lecture a class from every grade. Now this happens, Winchester has this specific thing. Cambridge might be doing something similar, but it's great. Every student gets to meet an author who has a published book. Some of these are children's books, some are adult books, and it depends on the grades they go to, and all the authors speaking. I just think this is a wonderful thing that Medford could
It's a tool.
embrace, because it's something you could do at the Chevalier. You could have them speak at the schools, and then at the Chevalier, the authors could be signing their books, and the parents could come with their kids. It's just...
I think Chevalier is a unique point of interest for the community, because years and years ago, it was stated, someone could go to the theater, however the theater is going to be played out on that particular night, and then have dinner before or dinner after, and that would just open up the square for other types of businesses, to accommodate whatever's going on there. And I think we have the tools in the city. There's no question in my mind we have the brain power, community-wide, for let's just see where we want to go, what we want to do, without making it have to say this is what we should do. Let's sit down there. Let's see where we're going with this. It's a great idea. Let's see if it can play itself out, why and how, and things of that nature. Medford's a great place to live. It's access to 93. It's public transportation. It's schools. Schools, I think, have come a long way. The elementary, especially in the elementary level, because that's where you get the kids. As they get up to the Middle Ages, what happens there. It's kids being kids, and you just have to deal with that part. know, you have your private schools, and I think it has an awful lot, especially in real estate. Real estate value is a holding, so that's a consideration that the city's doing okay. But, you know, you have your tax bill too, and we heard for a long period of time that once that Wellington development took place, you know, that was going to be the saving grace for taxes, but unfortunately, taxes have gone up each and every year.
Taxes are like a drug for some mayors, and it's like, they want to keep them livable.
You know, this year, approximately, they try to hold a residential tax rate down, but I think they said the average tax bill on the business was up almost $600. That's a big hit.
Huge hit.
It's a huge hit, you know? I mean, and how long can you keep doing this and keep hitting them each and every year? I don't know, you know, is there a special formula? Now, I know, like Somerville, for example, if you're non-owner occupied on your home, they've gone as high as 30% in increase in your taxes, you know, and, you know, other cities and towns have tried it, seems to be working. We've tried it, I was supportive of that in Medford, but they said no.
Ed Markey, why doesn't he come to the council?
I have absolutely no idea.
Shouldn't he? He's right in Medford Square.
I have no idea.
He has an opponent, Ardavala or something. The guy's name is quite long. I don't know where that will go. It seems pretty secure. I've gone to his office and talked to them a lot. I don't seem to get too far.
You know, I'm going to just tell you something, and he would be a prime example for someone who's been in office for so long, who's been able to see the whole majestic picture of what government's all about, to turn around, and I'm going to just go on this new health care bill, and I don't want to. If everybody thinks that these things that come down from Washington are so great, and they're so wonderful for we as the populace, then why aren't they a part of it themselves? Why did they vote to exclude themselves from things that they tell everyone to do? And when Nancy Pelosi last year turned around and says, listen, we have to pass this bill so we can find out what's in it, that to me, that's telling you right there what it's all about. And then it becomes the D versus the R versus the D. And I don't see it that way. I just look at it, you know, let me see what the issue is, what I think should be if I'm going to be part of government, as I am, and I participate in the process, I should also be subject to whatever the process is about. And you tell me how in Washington they just exclude themselves from all of these things. So that's why, you know, I think I think this election is going to be very, very interesting.
Well, that was my
Nationally.
next question,
Okay,
too.
go ahead.
Locally, the election.
Well, locally, and I think that to me is an issue, you know, for the local congressman. I mean, how did you vote to exclude yourself? What makes you better than anyone else? You shouldn't be. You know, a long time ago, I think Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House at the time, and he brought up this compact with America, and there was 100 issues, and one of them, I think, was term limits. You know, and as the more you keep thinking about it, I would probably have a tendency, you know, to start to think about that and say to myself, of course, now someone could do that against me. Why am I serving there for term limits? You know, listen, when it presents itself, then I would be, I would adhere to what, you know, the taxpayers say. 2 years, 3 years, terms, then you get out. If you want to come back, you can come back. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, having a change. You know, people say the same thing about the mayor, say the same thing about the council. Maybe we've all been there too long. But, you know something, you also need people to run.
Yep.
And if people become complacent and they don't want to run, or they say you can't buck City Hall, or you can't beat them in Washington, and that's how they wind up staying there, you know. And you see all these analogies that are being drawn with the present administration, you know, to, you know, what it was, what it could be, and what it may be. You know, so I won't get into that, but it just bothers me when I hear congressmen and congress ladies turn around and try to tell us that this is good for you, but it's not good enough for us, you know.
To your credit, people out there have been saying to me, Bob Penta should run for mayor. So some of your constituents want you to run.
It's been a thought,
Okay.
and it will continue to stay as a thought.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's good to hear. Because I didn't know where you stood on it. Now, Paul Donato's running unopposed. It's too late for anyone to run against him unless there's a write-in, right? Because it's already closed, whatever the...
Okay.
Who else are up for election? Is Paul Donato for state rep? Cal Shortino?
Right, he has an opponent.
He has an opponent. And is Pat Jalen up this time?
Yes, I don't believe she has an opponent as well.
Okay. She does a show here.
Oh, she does? Okay.
Yeah, I have a director, Jeff Dearman, who's not here today, but Jeff produces the Pat Jalen Show. So she's up on YouTube, and what I'd like to do with some of this, Bob, if you're happy with it, I'll get you a DVD. Cut up 10 minutes of what you like, and we can put it up on Project Open Voice.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I told you that before.
Yeah.
You know, when, let me just get back to, you mentioned Paul Donato. I don't know what your personal feelings are. I've dealt with Paul for a long period of time. Goes back to 1974. He serves his community well. Sometimes he finds himself, I think, in a tough position on some of these votes because he's in leadership up on the state. But he's again, I would probably say the type of an example of the type of politician that he can call. He's accessible. His office and his people are accessible. And I don't always agree with him, and I'm quite sure he doesn't always agree with me. But at least you know where you're going, so to speak. You're not out there adrift. And I think that's the staple that people are looking for, whether it's on the state level. Hopefully, I satisfy people of their concerns with me on a local level. You know, and on a national level, I just don't. I can't see people, congressmen, being so strict. You're either a D or an R when it comes to issues. But I find it fascinating when they want something of their own and they want to call it bipartisan, and they'll go out and find someone of the opposite party, and we're working in this bipartisan manner. But on something where leadership tells you, listen, we got to stick together, it's, you know, that's not what it's about. It's the issue. It's not the party, it's the issue. Maybe they should abolish parties, Joe.
Or have 7 or 8 that actually are viable,
You know.
viable parties.
The party isn't what makes the government move. I think it's the people's interest, and it's their thrust that they throw upon their elected officials. And if you're going to say one party dominates more than another, Massachusetts is so obvious. They have a Democratic Party that's so dominating, okay? And it's so liberal compared to other states. Is that really what you want, something that is so liberal, and the next state, wouldn't you want just a party? You know, I was talking to a group of kids that go to school and they can't understand there's 50 senators, there's 100 senators, 2 from each state. And they said, why can't we have 1 Republican and 1 Democrat if these are 2 primary parties? Because that's not the way but they said at least we'd be able to get the flavor of either side. So that 50-50 stalemate may not always be a 50-50 stalemate, because if a Democrat has a great idea and the Republicans like it, so be it, or vice versa. I mean, and it's just, I don't know, Joe.
I've always felt if you have Obama wins and Romney loses, but Romney gets so many votes,
Right.
just disposing of him, I think, is crazy. There should be some cabinet position for Mitt Romney because he got that far in the government. But we have it just black or white here. One's winner takes all. And
Well, the Electoral College, you know, speaks volumes for what you're talking about as it relates to
Yeah.
whether he gets a cabinet post or not, whoever gets the cabinet post or not. But sometimes you hear an awful lot that, you know, majority vote rules. So a small little state like Vermont could maybe, in the long run, upset an apple cart if you get these red and blue states that they now have everybody paranoid, who's red, who's blue. But if you have an election that is so damn close, that a small little state could, you know, upset the apple cart, and whereas right now, they're looking at the big red states or the blue states, these are the ones we have to win to become president. Well, what if you ever get yourself involved in an election where it's just so darn close? You know, it's going to be that small state that's going to, you know, knock it over. And if it's predominantly D or an R, and it's that close, that's what's going to happen.
so they get to pick for the whole country.
Do you remember when Nixon ran against Kennedy?
Sure.
I think it was, Kennedy was ahead by 1 million votes, and when you woke up in the morning, it was down to 100,000. I mean, I think, of course, that election had a whole bunch of other issues. But, I mean, anything
of other
happened, you know.
issues.
Yeah, you know, it's just, you know, politics is great. It's a great thing to talk about. It's like the church. It's great to talk about. You can have your views and your ideas, but once again, they both carry the same issue of maybe sometimes hiding and not explaining what the truth really is, and not being afraid, or being afraid to say what the truth really is, okay? And I think that's how, you know, the government and church gets itself in trouble.
I had Paul Camuso on my show. Now, you know, I've locked horns with Paul, but
Yep.
he's a gentleman outside
Yep.
of the council,
Yep.
which is good, and I see him in Winchester Square sometimes.
Yep.
But I had him on, Vincent Bugliosi was on, then I had Paul on. So I think it's great that you people are accessible to us, the citizens. I just think it's important, and I like that you're not taking a, standoff approach and just
No, it's
see
just,
me at the council chambers, you
no,
know?
no.